Williams.
Good morning, Giggs. What a day it is.
It is, and well, Travis Logie wasting no time this morning getting the green lights for go from the commissioner, and a smart move as we heard from him there, Ross. Remainder of the waiting period showing a dying swell and winds going a little funky, so we're on.
No need to get fruity. We got great waves in front of us, Giggs. Let's just get the party started, and it's more than contestable. It's basically just like yesterday in the afternoon, but a couple feet smaller. So the cool thing is, because it's a little smaller, we will see the occasional big air today, so that's in play.
All right, so activation early on. Yeah, Kolohe Andino will fight for that inside position against his opponent, world number one, John Florence, and he'll go down in the effort. And well, it's a little tie-up to get going here, Ross.
Interesting. Yeah, that was, it seemed like just kind of a freakish thing there where they got tangled up. Kolohe kind of realigned himself to paddle around John. And as he did that, their leashes got tangled. So very interesting here. We'll see if the judges try to do anything with it.
Well, proverbial locking horns early on here inside the first 2 minutes. Kolohe Andino, let's have a close look at this.
Yeah, so John was committing to a straight line, and Kolohe kind of repositioned himself and paddled around John. So maybe more of the aggressor. So if there is a paddling interference, I don't know if they'll take a closer look at Kolohe. Again, John just kind of committing straight, and Kolohe going around him. So that was pretty smart for Kolohe because he got the inside track for that right-hander. But very touch and go at what kind of decision the judges can make there.
Well, precarious moment here as we get semi-final one underway. And you see Kolohe ditching out.
What a freakish way to start the heat. We did see something like this in West Oz a couple of years ago, and there was actually a resurf. It was crazy. Who was that with? It was Bede and Taj Burrow, and the judges literally could not make a decision, so they had him resurf, a very rare incident. This reminds me of that.
Well, surfing fans around the world, the judges have their very own camera. It's independent of what we, the viewership, get to see, so they will be pulling up that moment and re-watching it time and time again, as it'll go under the auspices of the panel.
Judges still watching, Giggs, so they haven't made a decision yet.
Wow. So, locking horns early on, just that little decimal 0.13 deemed by the fact that Kolohe actually did get to his feet, so he activates the score. And we are deep into the discussion, and we're just a couple of minutes into this here.
My initial thought is it looks neutral to me. They are both kind of messing around, and they got tangled up. So I don't feel like there was one guy that deserves an interference here, but the judges are going to really pick that apart. The cool thing for John is he's got priority now. So he's out there kind of controlling the lineup. But you can see, brother, that's Kolohe Andino's nickname, he's not happy. So he wants a decision, but we just got word, Giggs, no interference call, and I like that.
All right, an official breakdown of that situation on the main peak. So just a small score for Kolohe Andino. No interference is called. And looking at conditions on hand here, very peaky, Ross. Lots of opportunities to go left and right. And John will lead it straight through the barrel section here. And he'll float and he'll disconnect. So quick effort on the left-hander from John. Kolohe looking for that update.
Yeah, he didn't hear it. So no interference for Kolohe, so he's still trying to get that info. Quick little barrel for John, should be a mid-ranger at best. Would have been nice if he landed that float, but it still does have a lot of punch today, Giggs, so it's going to be tough to land airs and floaters, but it is in play.
Well, semi-finals down to 4 surfers. This exciting encounter, John and Kolohe Andino.
Amazing technique for John, just wrangling that late drop, but a very short barrel again, so that's going to keep that score low. But you can see the talent from John. How comfortable is he taking off under the hood? And, a lot of times we use those terms, get under it, knife the drop, and really all that means is just getting right under the wave as it's breaking. You don't have a lot of time to react out here. These waves, they basically slam into the shallow sandbar, so you have to slide down the face just like John did.
During Travis Logie's very brief interview this morning to get proceedings underway, he did mention that wind was hovering just on the side shore, still with a degree of offshore in it. So that's going to play a factor as wind is moving left to right across your screens here in Super Tubos in Portugal. And we are deep into semi-final number 1 here. John Florence is going to find a 383, most of it coming from just that short run behind the curtain, Ross.
Yeah, I think, had John had that wave over, he would have loved an extra 10 seconds to position himself deeper. Then he would have got a legit score. But the wave just kind of surprised him. It popped up as it does out here. He had no time to really adjust to where he wanted to be, but he still took off and said, you know what, I might as well squeeze a score out of it.
We're 2 hours into the tide shift here. It is incoming for today's action, and a high tide off at midday, just after 8 o'clock here. So 4 hours of water, not the biggest tide shift either, which really works in our favor here for the playing field. Just a 6-foot shift in water movement. So we should see fairly consistent platform of conditions through both semis and into the finals, Ross.
So I like that, Gig. So good call. It's not extreme. We're not seeing giant tide switches. So in general, pretty benign. You mentioned that wind. You know, it is a little bit cross shore, but the good news is all the surfers left in the draw are great in the air. And you know, Gigs, they're looking at these right-handers. That wind's going to hold the board to their feet. Look for some huge rotators today.
Still some punchy tubes on offer as well, Ross. So again, we're back to the same 2 bulletin points of criteria from the judging panel when we got going on day 1, right?
Airs and barrels, for sure. It's very clear. It still is a bit sizey, though. So airs are going to be kind of crazy. You know, it's going to be tough landings, big airs into the flats. But it's going to be also testing for the judges, because once someone does a big air on a medium-sized wave, where are they going to go with the score? Yesterday was really easy. It was all about getting huge tube rides. But today, with maneuvers back in play, the judges will have to adjust.
Well, of course, every stop on tour, we use the same set of judging criteria according to the World Surf League rule book. And let's have a look here as Kolohe Andino, wall stretches out, board speed is up. To the air he goes, and that was a huge twist at the apex of it. He'll disconnect on the landing. So an opportunity spills away for Kolohe Andino. Still 22 minutes remaining, so plenty of time here.
I mean, you could argue our semifinals finalists, Kolohe, John, Connor, and Jordy Smith, all amazing in the air. Even Connor, I know he's sneaky, but he's really good in the air as well. We're looking at a great platform for big airs today. That was sketchy, but Kolohe's still boosting.
Absolutely, and plus, let's add more to their spectrum. They're all great in the barrel. They're all great on the rail with power calves as well. So what a final 4 we are down to here in Portugal.
And you can see Kolohe's face right there, the intent. He is looking for a ramp. But this is what's sketchy about this area. He got a lot of projection up and over the wave. You can see how high he was, but the landing was sketchy. He was in the flats. He didn't have that cushion of the whitewash to kind of cushion the blow and make the landing easy. And that's what's tough about airs today. If you're going to go out into the flats, it's really hard to handle that compact, you know, that impact, I should say. So you're going to get a lot of that board, all that friction. It's like jumping off a one-story building. Your ankles, your knees are going to get tested.
Well, this is the most intense I have seen Kolohe Andino for a heat, possibly in his career, Ross. He is, you could see the scowl on his face, literally, as he got going on that wave.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy on a mission. Kolohe Andino's never won a CT. He's got just 2 heats to get it done today, so his focus is very narrowed.
Of course, Kolohe Andino making the finals of the first event on tour back on the Gold Coast. But let's go back to the judging criteria. There are your aspects to it. Commitment and degree of difficulty we really saw as a strong subject of discussion yesterday, but bringing in the innovation and progression again this morning here for finals day.
No doubt. So maybe the last 2 lines not as important, but you can definitely combo it up today with major maneuvers. You're going to be committed to big airs and big barrels. So now that the waves are a little bit smaller, we're opening up that scale a little bit more for the judges.
There is your 0 through 10, of course, excellent. And that is how we finished yesterday's proceedings, with Jordy Smith finding his way to the semi-finals, care of that 10-point ride. And now we'll pick up John Florence as he goes into the wind. Behind the curtain, a deep tube thread here. We watch it very closely. And we hold our breath. And John will go down. So, wow. Both surfers not unlocking any scores at this stage. Semi-final number 1 wide open for the taking.
Good call, Giggs. Yeah, you definitely got to hold your breath on those little pea shooters right there. John was close to making it out there. You saw him bunch up there. He's trying to get as small as possible to fit in that barrel as it got smaller, but did not get let out that time.
See the position of your surfers in the semi-final number 1. There's that side shore wind. So still some of the barrels are going to stay open, Ross. Some of them are going to have little chandelier exits to them, but there is that end section ramp. So we're looking very closely to see how the scores are going to come. Right now, that last ride is just a flat 1 point from the panel. Prior to that, Kolohe Andino goes to the air for a 1.43.
You know what's cool, Gigs, about Europe? Our two events here in Europe is it's dark till 7:30, and so you don't have a whole lot of time to warm up. You just get confronted with conditions. You go out there. If you're the first heat in the morning, you got to like wake up really fast and be on top of your game. So the first 10 minutes has gone by in this heat, and we don't really have any shape to this heat yet. So these guys are kind of just starting to figure it out. You know what? There is maneuvers out here. It's not just big barrels like yesterday.
Well, both of these surfers semi-finaled in France at the previous stop, and this is a big section for Kolohe as he rail drives through. And again, we hold our breath, and you see him just cork pop up the top of that tube, incomplete again. So both surfers really, and this has been the theme from the very outset, from that initial paddle. Both of these surfers have just been right up each other's grills.
Yeah, they've been definitely confronting each other very close, and it looks like a nice little nugget here for John.
John will find an opportunity. This one's going to stay open, and it puffs John out. So single tube there. He doesn't go for the end section. Smart move as he quickly exits, and he'll move stealthily back through the lineup to establish that priority again.
So smaller conditions today, but still hollow. So you can see these barrels are definitely wide open. But for Kolohe Andino, he was close to a huge score there. He was trying to navigate through this barrel. But watch all the noise inside the barrel. He had that long section, so right there, just a little too long for him. He did a great job driving into that barrel, but because that wave extended in front of him, the floor dropped out from underneath his feet. This, the exact opposite. That was such a cruisy barrel for John. Basically, all he had to do was stand up and then just enjoy the barrel. Watch, he's going to just dig his hand in for a second, but the job is done. At that point, he's just coming out. There's the spit. So a solid barrel. I don't think it's going to be a massive score, but definitely a fun little ride for John. And he's starting to build now.
Well, this will be a very important score, that completed tube ride of John Florence, to show us what kind of numbers are available for amount of time in the barrel. And Kolohe there almost finds the exit and then pulls through the back. So John establishes now the number of a 6.17. So decent entry to that barrel, medium-sized wave, Ross. We've got something to work with.
I like it. Obviously you would love to start out of the gates with a huge score, but there is a trajectory here with this heat that's kind of cool. It's tangible. These guys still looking and searching for that first big knockout punch. The best is yet to come here at the halfway mark.
Well, 16.5 to go, and people are flocking down to the sand already here in Portugal. No one knows more about surf conditions than Peter Mel. You're down there with them.
There's a few people that know more than I do, but I do know a little bit. I'll tell you, just wanted to give you a quick conditions on factual information. We got a high tide midday today. So Travis, with the dropping swell, making sure that we got that early start. 8:05, we're already underway. We've got 2 hours of surfing to do. So again, good call by Travis to get it going. Got that southeast wind that kind of fluctuates over to south and comes back to southeast. Hopefully by the middle of the morning we'll have it be more out of that easterly direction. Fingers crossed that happens. You look at conditions today, very similar to what we saw yesterday, just a notch smaller, maybe 2 notches smaller. So those diamonds in the rough are what they're looking for. It is a challenge out there, looking for that clean water. If you look over my shoulder, you can kind of see some of the rips, those brown water. So you'll see that the surfers will sit just off the side of that and get into that clean water, hoping that they'll find a nice big wedge of a left or a right. We saw John pick up that 6.17, pretty much the first substantial score so far in this heat.
Thanks so much, Pete. Of course, when Pete starts talking about wave size, we've always got to be a little raise an eyebrow, because you never know with the Big Wave Commissioner's interpretation of sizes. But, 3 to 6 feet today. What are you calling it, Ross?
Yeah, I like that. Again, so we'll reiterate what we said yesterday. For Hawaiian size, which again is just for clarification, has nothing scientific about it, but I would say it's 2 to 4 feet. Actual size on the face today, I would say 8 feet. It's overhead today. So I actually like today's conditions. Yesterday was exciting because we had big, huge barrels that looked like off the wall or something. But today, again, because it's a little smaller, we're going to see maneuvers in play. So it's a fun day to watch.
So I like how Pete described that. It is 2 notches down from yesterday, but there were some thundering 8-foot pits here. So still plenty of energy left. What I like about today, and Travis's call, is there's still a lot of rhythm to the ocean here. So we're not going to see too many patches of starvation for waves available.
Good call. Yeah, it's very consistent, which is great for the surfers. It'll be comforting knowing, hey, I can make a few mistakes and recover. There's going to be a lot of opportunity, but you can see the scores there. It still is hidden out there. You're going to have to search and look. That side shore wind, it's creating all these little nuggets coming in. It's not one long, clean swell line. There's these little chip shots everywhere. So you got to somehow hook into the right spot at the right time.
Well, you described this wave rolling in pretty much as a chip shot, and that is what Kolohe Andino is looking at. There's a couple of waves, Ross, you spotted it as we got going here this morning. A couple of waves running at slightly different angles through the lineup here.
Well, we've had a good 24 hours or so of that south wind, in general, south wind. And so that's slowly but surely creating these swells to kind of sweep from left to right across the screen. So yesterday it was 99% rights, but today some of those lefts are starting to come into play because of that sweep.
Of course, a massive heat in the context of 2016, the yellow jersey. The Jeep leaderboard's #1, John Florence, out front in the world title race, and a chance to clinch it right here in Portugal, right here this morning. But there are a number of elements to that unfolding. John Florence, of course, must first make his way through this heat here. So we'll take it one step at a time this morning here, Ross. And we are watching some sets move through the lineup here. 13 minutes to go, plenty of time. And the 617 as the anchor point of discussion for scores.
And there's that kind of haunted house theme out there. Again, you're so surprised. It's tough to put yourself in a sweet spot. We just saw John dip that wave. I can tell you that right-hander that he just duck dived was an absolute gem that peeled across the beach, but just out of position.
You're watching semi-final #1 here in Portugal. And John Florence is going to look over the ledge of this one. Here he goes. He'll trim it. Couple of sections to this barrel, you found his way through. And now a little section trying to capitalize and go to the air. He doesn't find it on that corner, Ross. So John Florence, though, staying busy. Wave #4 now from him. Previous to that, the 617. And then he opened with the 383. So he's going to be looking to replace the 383 here.
Yeah, and it's in the same neighborhood as the 3.83 in my opinion. So he's going to still be searching for a solid score. But it's out there. The waves are good. You just got to find yourself right in that sweet spot. It's only a matter of time again here in the last 12 minutes. You're going to see John squeeze into this barrel. It wasn't wide open, but he did a great job of getting through that kind of shut down barrel. So there was some maneuvering inside that barrel, but I don't think that judges are going to get too excited because it wasn't a very committed effort. It was more him just trying to squeeze water out of a rock right there. But he did a great job. He refused to fall. But in general, kind of a frustrating ride. I don't see it really going much more over a 4.
Well, we'll wait for that number from the panel. 617 previous to that. Couple of parts to that tube. And while the judges process that number, and we'll see if John Florence replaces the score or not, we'll take a quick break this morning. Stay with us. It's semi-finals in Portugal.
Boom, boom, boom. There are some bombs coming through out the back.
Perfect surfing from Andino to start.
John, he's deep in there, we can tell you, and there he is. Kolohe's going to use priority. He's going to get absolutely parked here. Welcome back to semi-final 1 featuring John Florence and Kolohe Andino. Of course, John Florence now pretty much trying to just click the last part of a puzzle in place to be crowned the world champion. It is down to getting through this encounter here first. John must make the finals, and then, well, the only way that anything can change is Jordy Smith getting a win here in Portugal. Either way, if John wins the semi-final, currently out in the water, it takes Gabriel Medina out of the world title race. We're picking up here on Kolohe Andino, who is looking for something to really get moving in this heat. Whitewater rebound, wraps it on the face. See a little bit of a twist to the pocket of this opportunity, and there he does find the end section hit. So working a score into place here is Kolohe Andino. And while we were at the break, judges had time to decipher that last ride of John Florence, a slight improvement to now feature a 4.37 in his top two scoreline. And well, that would have brought a requirement for Kolohe Andino of a 6.54. And we'll wait for that last score.
And I believe it just dropped, Gigs, a 4-point ride for this wave right here. So I like that, Kolohe picking up on the fact that, hey, the scores aren't easy to come by right now, so he's going to work. Obviously, he wants to get barreled. He wants to do a big error, but this wave not allowing that. So he did well. He had a nice climb there to start with, a decent finishing move. I know it's just a 4, but look, it lowered that requirement all the way down to a 6.5.
All right, so we have a clear picture now with John Florence leading over Kolohe Andino. There are the requirements now for the surfer from San Clemente, now in his 6th year on tour. Of course, Kolohe feels like he's been around forever, such a media star since his 10th birthday around there.
Yeah, him and John actually,
they share the same story, right?
Exactly. They share the same story. They've been in the limelight since they were kids. They're prodigies, and this is their destiny to be on tour. But John with the yellow jersey on right now. So, he's the guy that actually has a chance to win a world title this year. But for Kolohe, a different mission. Just as important for him, he wants to get that first CT win.
Kolohe Andino finds himself in the top 5 on the Jeep leaderboard. Of course, making the finals for the first stop, losing in that final to Matt Wilkinson, who would take the yellow jersey and run with it. Of course, Matt Wilkinson, a bumpy ride through part of the calendar, but John Florence would finally get the yellow jersey off Matt Wilkinson as we went through the Jeffreys Bay stop, care of a win in Rio de Janeiro for the Hawaiian, and then making the finals against Mick Fanning in J-Bay. We see John go to the top of the ladder. And now we pick up on the yellow jersey as it flies through the curtain here. And yes, he'll find the doggy door, we call it in the sport. Little section at the bottom there, so he threaded a great distance there and mysteriously found his way out.
That's the perfect word. That was a mystery. He somehow just went right through the curtain. We call it the doggy door. It's just that side door exit. So the perfect way to go out of the barrel is through the front door, just right out into the channel. But if the wave closes out, you're forced to kind of punch through the wall of the lip. So right here, this wave closes out, there's no exit, and somehow he just snuck through. He made that look so easy. And that's the beauty of John surfing. He's such a naturalist. Right here, so a big pump, he's getting tons of speed. He's looking at the line saying, wow, there's no exit here. I got to somehow manufacture an exit. And he kind of just punched through the curtain there. So always casual. He makes it look easy, and he grinded out a score, which was pretty much, really tough because the wave closed out.
Well, that was barely a doggy door. It was almost like kicking the whole front door down right there.
It's a little Chihuahua door.
Yeah, but he got through it, and that's the important point, is he'll bring a completion. And the judges are going to appreciate the length and the work that was achieved behind the curtain, and they're going to go to a 7.67 for that number.
That's huge. That really, now we're starting to see the shape of this heat take form. That's forcing a huge score for Kolohe Andino. Now he needs a 9.84, and John's still kind of, I feel like, looking for that first big score. These guys right now, they haven't had the luxury of a real perfect wave come their way. They're grinding right now, but John's just doing a little better job at grinding.
So thicker, heavier tube as well for the 7.67 compared to the 6.17. But it is John finding numbers inside the barrel. We've been speaking about going to the air. Hasn't really played a part in this heat yet, Ross.
Yeah, I mean, and that's cool. You just got to surf what's in front of you. And for John, he's been looking at barrels, and that's just basically what's come his way. If he finds himself a medium-sized wave and a ramp comes at him, look out. He will launch, especially now that he has a couple of okay scores.
Well, of course, conditions here on the shift, as they always are in Europe. And both Connor Coffin and Jordy Smith will be watching every moment of this semi-final number 1 as they are preparing for semi-final number 2. And of course, it is about being in the right position in the lineup. And that was and this is exactly what Jordy Smith did yesterday. He was in the right position. He found that 10-pointer to wrap up yesterday's proceedings here and find his way to the semi-finals. And now that same part of the bank will get Kolohe Andino going. Tapered wall. And we're speaking about the ever-changing conditions here, and that one has just tricked Kolohe. So
Yeah, now John has the opportunity to close his heat out with priority. Play some tactics here. He's going to paddle right over to Kolohe and sit on him and really try to occupy the lineup. Maybe a little wrap there. You see Kolohe. That's the cool thing about today. Airs are in place, so you don't need a perfect wave. You can find a closeout and go big.
Well, John was moving towards Kolohe, but he's being a bit distracted now by this big peak. And it will implode in the lineup here. And no one will manage to capture that. So John Florence remains in the lead, holding priority here in semi-final number 1. Kolohe Andino, a big requirement, and he hasn't really managed to build momentum, where John's found the 2 tube rides. And what I liked, what you said there, Ross, it's almost like John kind of hasn't really slipped it into full gear, and neither has Kolohe in this encounter.
No, I mean, this is a prime example of the waves being elusive. You know, it's just avoided these 2 competitors, because we are looking out the window ourselves, Gigs, and we're seeing perfect waves. But you just scan 100 yards this way with your eyes and scan over there, and there's great waves out there, but there's a bit of luck factor involved here.
So 2 surfers patrolling on screen here. John, of course, now will keep a very close eye on Kolohe Andino. We've seen 10-point rides go down. It's a 9.84 requirement. It's all still very possible for the young Californian in red. And it just takes 1 big deep tube to change the game here. Seeing the positioning here. And John decides, oh, you know what? I don't see a 10 on that. And Kolohe is threading through the tube here. Now a section to work with. Just a beautiful rasp of the fins there. Kolohe again, little click in the pocket. Now there's enough time for Kolohe to get back out over the sandbar and possibly find another wave here, Ross.
Yeah, that was interesting. John letting him go. The wave didn't really turn out to be that exciting, but it could be better. It's going to be much better than his 4, so that requirement is going to drop way down there. So John taking a big gamble there. Now, he's trying to just close this heat out with priority and tactics, but now he's going to be forced with blocking Kolohe Andino with only needing a mediocre score. Okay barrel there, so we're looking at a medium-sized score, and he cleaned it up with a nice little wrap with the tail slide. So that's, added little bonus there. Again, it's going to be much better than his 4. He's not going to need a big score here. Watch the barrel here, 1 big pump. He's probably a little shocked that John let him go on this wave, so he's thinking, whoa, okay, I need to kind of gather my concentration here. But, the barrel is just so-so, and there's the score.
Well, it's a slight improvement of 4.47, so not particularly deep behind the curtain. Judges are not fooled by that. They thought that John's tube was way deeper and more technical, Ross, so 4.47 added to the 4 brings the requirement down just a touch, as you mentioned. And that was a tricky moment for John Florence, making the decision on the wave quality and not on Kolohe's ability to let that go, right?
Hindsight's 20/20. It definitely was sketchy, and I would think that John will go in this wave. This looks like a gem here.
Well, John will now exercise priority, and this is a bigger, meatier one. And he'll somehow re-emerge again. So a thick lip, and he finds an opportunity to squeeze through. And John manhandling the lineup here in Peniche in Portugal this morning. And you see him quick check on his timepiece.
You gotta love him.
Of course, beach announcers keeping him up to date as well. Just under 10 seconds to go.
You gotta love him. He's getting his freak on, basically. Again, another wave gigs that didn't have an exit, and he just magically got through that side door. So a great way to kind of add a little sugar to this heat for John. It should be better than his 6.17, a stand-up barrel, so a lot of room. Again, closed out on him, and it's like the wave just said, okay, you're John, we're going to let you out.
Well, halfway now to the 2 building blocks that need to fulfill John Florence's destiny. He has taken out semi-final number 1. He is in the finals here in Portugal. This eliminates
huge.
Gabriel Medina from the world title race. It's massive here.
This is big. So it's all about the big fella, the South African in the next heat, Jordy Smith. He's in a must-win situation. He has to win the semis. He has to win the final. That's the only man in the way of John winning a world title.
Wow. John Florence has achieved the first part of it. He has now passed Kolohe Andino and is into the finals here. And as you mentioned, Ross, the only way that we do not crown John Florence here today is if Jordy Smith can take his first Portuguese win. We're going to take a quick break. Semi-final number 2 coming next. The big South African takes on Connor Coffin.
you like that? Well, if so, subscribe over there and then watch more videos over there. And then tell us your favorite videos down there. It's a 3-step process. Do them all now.